After reading over 1,000 comments on my video about Triss and her allegedly red hair, I thought it's only fair to make another one, but this time about pretty much everyone else in The Witcher show. I hope it doesn't end up being too long, if so I may have to split it in 2 parts, but we'll see. So in this video we're going to have a look at the physical appearance of the characters we see in Season 1 and compare them to whatever information we have about them in The Witcher books, and also to their portrayal in The Witcher games, whenever that's possible. I will once again be using the English translations as points of reference, and I'll appreciate any input from my Polish viewers in case there are any obvious conflicts or any need of extra clarification. Also, a little disclaimer here, I haven't reread the books before making this video, so I'm going mostly off memory and I could potentially miss some details, in which case I apologize, and of course you're likely to see and hear absolutely gargantuan spoilers, so be warned. Alright, let's get started in order of importance. First off, Yennefer.
Yennefer is a sorceress, and what's great about this series is she
has black hair, both the show and the games get that right. In fact, they both portray it in a rather similar fashion, if you think about it. She also has particularly white skin. Now here, some people have said that she's not quite white enough in the show, and I'll admit the actress is not exactly the picture of paleness, but to me it's close enough, so I'd say she's okay in that department. The games of course get it right, but then again, colors are much easier to manipulate in video game characters. And of course she has violet eyes, which may or may not be due to her elven heritage.
What more do you want? Everything.
Additionally, she has what the books call a triangular face, which I assume means wide cheekbones and narrow chin, also relatively narrow lips, and an overall cold and emotionless expression. In this regard, I'll say that the games get closer to the truth. Now, Anya Chalotra, or Chalotra, however it's pronounced, the Yennefer actress, does have a little too mild and maybe even juvenile features. The curves on her face are rather smooth, her eyes are big and round, and the overall expression is somewhat innocent, which I do not think is a very good fit for Yennefer, especially post-transformation. In fact, there are some fan arts out there which I think do an amazing job at conveying how Yennefer should look, according to the books. However, I must say that I actually expected worse from Yennefer on Netflix. The actress turned out to be pretty good, in my opinion at least, and I could tell she tried, and I appreciate it. So all in all, I think Yennefer looks alright in the show, but ultimately I do prefer her video game portrayal. Now if you're wondering what I think about her personality, that's a fair question, and I'll leave it for now, maybe for another video once I've seen another season or 2 of the show. Meanwhile, if you haven't, you can check the playlist with my episode reviews to get an idea of my thoughts so far. But I want to see how her relationship with Ciri will develop to get a better picture of her whole character.
My, you've grown beautiful.
Alright, and now that we've mentioned Ciri, let's talk about her next. So, she's got a rather remarkable set of green eyes. While going through the books, I got the impression that there is something special about them. They were brought up very often, and a lot of attention was paid to them. I suspect it may also have something to do with her elven heritage. You know, Yennefer has elven blood as well, as I mentioned earlier, and she's the only character we know of in this world who has violet eyes. So perhaps elven blood can lead to very specific looking features. I mean, Fringilla Vigo, for example, has green eyes as well, but hers don't really get the same treatment as Ciri's. So, on one hand, there were scenes in the show where I thought Ciri's eyes looked a little too fake, but on the other, maybe in a way that's how they're supposed to. So I would say Netflix did well here. And of course the games don't do a bad job either. Okay, now we get to Ciri's hair, and who knows exactly what her hair should look like. The books refer to it in several ways. Ashen is the most often used term, but we also have ash grey, mouse grey, and also mousy. What I can say with reasonable certainty is that her hair is not like Geralt's. His hair is never referred to as any of those things, as far as I recall. It's normally just called white, and Ciri's hair is never called white. Also, Geralt's hair is a couple of times compared to an old man's hair or an albino's hair, albino, however it's pronounced, and that's never done with Ciri. So their hair is certainly different. And the question now becomes, does The Witcher 3 really get her hair wrong by making it white? Well, mostly no, and a little bit of yes, I suppose. If I'm not mistaken, later on in the books, Ciri's hair does indeed grow whiter because of all the troublesome stuff that she goes through in her story. So perhaps based on that, CD Projekt Red decided to make her hair white in the third game. However, we also see child Ciri briefly, and her hair is white as well. I think that's where they made a mistake. So what is the true color? Is it like the show? Is it grey? I mean, there are actually people who have left comments on my videos saying that that's the case, and that it is apparently an allegory for the connection between Yennefer and Geralt. You know, she has black hair, he has white hair, Ciri is kind of their daughter, and her hair is the color in between, in a way? I don't know, that may be the case. Also, once again, she has elven heritage, and a peculiar hair color may be a result of that as well. In fact, Calanthe and Pavetta, her grandmother and mother, are said to have the same or at least similar hair color. If we do some googling, ashen hair mostly shows Ciri, and Arthas actually, who also has green eyes by the way. Now, mousy hair shows this, a rather discolored, bright brown or blonde that's kind of greyish. And here's a fun fact from the third game. The crones actually call Ciri a mousy blonde.
The girl. Mousy blonde. That's what they call it.
Now, her age is another question, and I've criticized that in another video, so I don't want to go too deep into it now, but suffice it to say I think she should be younger. And in that aspect, the games do a better job when showing her in Kaer Morhen.
No, please. I'd rather clean the stables.
End of discussion.
Okay, time to talk about Geralt. I did already mention his white hair. It is on a few occasions compared to that of an old person, so perhaps it's not entirely snow white, but it's mostly white for sure.
Did your mother fuck a snowman?
In the show, it does have a bit of a yellowish tint at times, but I think that's probably because of the lighting. Other times it appears properly white. He also has pale skin. As I mentioned before, he's also called or compared to an albino, and I suppose in a way he is, since his hair color is the result of the loss of pigmentation, which in turn was a side effect of the Witcher trials he undertook. So in that department, both the games and the Netflix show get it right. Now, probably the two most popular questions that arise from gamers about the show are 1. Why does he not carry 2 swords on his back? And 2. Why does he not have cat eyes?
I'm a witcher. Heard you wondering about my swords. Well, one's for monsters, the other for humans. Only got one prick though.
Let's address the swords first. Well, in the books, he usually carries one at a time. When he's among humans, he carries his steel sword, and the other way around when he's on a monster contract. I believe there were also cases where he wears both at the same time in the books, but ultimately the show didn't make a mistake by portraying him wearing just one sword. At the same time, I wouldn't say the games get it wrong either because of the nature of gameplay itself. It would be too inconvenient to have to call your horse and pick up the other sword from it if suddenly you need to fight some bandits or something, and besides, it's kind of cool. As for the cat eyes, specifically the vertical pupils, it's a little difficult to say which of the two mediums has it right. See, in the books he doesn't always have those. His pupils can take the shape of a cat's, but he does it only when the need arises. In fact, cats themselves don't keep their pupils in that shape all the time. So in the games, his eyes always have the vertical pupil, while in the show, they never do. Personally, I'm fine with both presentations. Now, one thing that I think the show gets wrong is that moment when Geralt's eyes become pitch black. If I'm not mistaken, in the books it was said that his pupils expand to the full size of his iris. which would mean that the entire iris should appear black, not the entire eye. Alright, now let's talk about size. Geralt is quite big and muscular in the Witcher show, and I get the feeling that's not exactly how it was meant to be in the books. In there, he's usually penniless and don't have constant access to food, so having such inflated muscles would be unlikely. Also, at that point where he knocks the guy out with the coin pouch, it was said that he is twice Geralt's size or something, which they cleverly removed from the show. And as far as the games are concerned, in my opinion, The Witcher 2 is probably the closest portrayal to the books in terms of his body.
I'm looking for a whore.
Now, some people have also said that the beard is not right for Geralt in the games, since he prefers shaving when possible, and that is true. However, I will not hold it against the games, because after all, you're not forced to have a beard, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just another realistic bit of customization. I must actually admit that I do love the way Geralt's beard suits him, especially the full beard with maxed out hairworks enabled.
But sometimes it takes courage to be a coward.
Alright, I think we're done with him, and this video has gone for a while now, so I suppose I'll mention something new about Triss briefly, and I'll leave the rest of the cast for part 2. Besides, splitting it into main characters and side characters does seem like a natural choice. Alright, so in the previous video about Triss, I gave a few examples of how there's some evidence for her hair color being brown and red, as well as something in between. And when making this video, I stumbled upon a line where Triss's hair is actually referred to as auburn. I'm pretty sure when I went through the books, the translation didn't have that word, but there it is here. So I guess we have another piece of evidence that her desired hair color is red. Maybe not brightly red, but reddish nevertheless. And I've got to thank a viewer of mine by the name of Scarlet Sunday for providing me with that particular translation. So that was all I had, I think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of everything I said in it, and I thank you very much for watching.
I'll tell you the details later.
Until the next video, stay tuned and be good.